Wonderful, wonderful. So maybe we'll give people till 4:03. This is being recorded, so folks who can't be here with us will be able to watch it when they can. I see a lot of familiar faces or familiar names on the call. Hi, everybody. Great to have you here. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Welcome everyone to the Artist Equity Speaker Series. My name is Karen Cappy-Nugent. Also on the call is my co-chair, Betsy Maraglia, who was and is instrumental in the creation and delivery of this series. On the chat is Bo Dernbach, membership chair, who will be moderating your questions. And I want to thank everyone who made this event possible, including our president, Robin Stone. With that, I'd like to welcome renowned urbanscape artist Desmond O'Hagan, who will share his expertise in planning an online art webinar. So Desmond, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and hand it over to you.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this series. And I guess I'm the first one as well. So this is breaking some new ground. So as the title says, is planning an online art webinar. Now, in this day and age, with the obviously with the pandemic and everybody working through Zoom is a huge part of this. This has been groundbreaking for many artists to get involved with the whole concept of Zoom. And when it comes to art webinars, I've really broken it down into 3 groups. You have a presentation, basically what we're doing today, and I'm going to show some images in a digital slide presentation. Then you have a presentation with a demo, which is a little more complicated, and that involves, camera setups and being able to show your demo live in action. And the third one is a workshop, which involves a presentation, involves a demo, and then also involves critiquing artists' work. And that one's a little bit more involved and obviously longer. So one of the main things you have to do is have your own Zoom account. And this would be the pro account where you pay, I think it's like $16 a month. And that's a really important part because if you just have a free account, it's limited to a certain time period. So if you're going to do workshops, you have to go with the pro account, and then you can go for as long as you want. It does limit you to 100 participants, but I think if you have 100 participants for a workshop, I think you're already in trouble. That's just too many. But it's great for like presentations. So I'd like to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about what I've been doing in the last so many years. I've been painting professionally for about 35 years. I paint in oils and pastels. I originally started in college studying architecture, even though I've been painting and drawing ever since I was a little kid, but I couldn't make that connection of painting, being an artist. So I started in architecture, loved structure, loved design. Then I decided I just wasn't into architecture and went into graphic design. That brought me to Colorado, and I worked for an ad agency. And then I always say with the support of a fearless wife, I embarked on a career in fine art around 1986. And I have been painting ever since and showing in galleries, exhibitions across the country and across the world. I've been in group exhibitions in France, China, Japan, Canada, and then across the United States. I've been fortunate to be featured in several national and international magazines over the years. And that has been a big part of how I marketed my work. So those were key parts of promoting my career. A part of my work is doing presentations and conducting workshops. I've been teaching workshops since 1999. And the funny part was, I remember my very first workshop, I was walking into the studio, and the lady that was hosting it, she turned to me and she says, "Oh, by the way, everybody in your workshop is a workshop instructor." So no, no pressure there. But it was an interesting time. So I try and balance that because my main focus is painting and competing in shows and just trying to improve my craft. But I love workshops and I love connecting with people because this is a very solitary type of career. I mean, I'm the most productive when I am by myself in my studio with the radio on and just painting away. So the workshops get me out of the house, not the online workshops, which is the adjustment for this last year. But I will continue to do online workshops, probably more in the winter. But I'm looking forward to getting out and meeting people and getting into the in-person workshops. But in the meantime, if you're at all interested in doing webinars and workshops and presentations, I'll give you kind of a little rundown on how that all operates. So the very first thing I want to show you is a shortened version of my presentation that I give in my demos and workshops. So I'm going to screen share. Okay. I hope everybody can see that. All right. So starting off, I mentioned I work in oils and pastels. I work on a glass palette that I can change out very easily. And then I have a piece of mat board underneath it that matches the color of the mat board, matches what I've toned the canvases. So when I work in oils, I know that the color I'm mixing on my palette is going to be accurate for when it goes on to the canvas. Also working in pastels. This is a very, very disorganized set of pastels. So most likely it was after I was finished with the painting. But what I do is I have three trays, and I start with my darks, my mediums, and my lights. Like I said, this is a bit jumbled right now, but that's basically as organized as I get when it comes to pastels. So what I'm really working with is values, I'm reaching for the dark values, the mid values, and the lighter values. It's basically as straightforward as that. I work with flats and brights when it comes to brushes. Don't really use many rounds, but I love bristle brushes, big, bold strokes, much like big, bold strokes of pastel. It's my easel, actually built by my father back in 1986. He was in the science industry and very technically minded. And so this easel will survive a nuclear attack. It's very solid. And that was my one request, was it had to be super solid because I'm pretty aggressive when I paint. So this is a nice solid easel. This is my studio during a show. My studio is about 600 square feet, track lighting, vaulted ceilings. And you can see a lot of light. I don't really have skylights, but these are all color correct track lighting. And this, we built the studio on to our house, so I have a very short commute in the morning. It's another view. And this is a gathering. This was a show during the day. And it's this was an associate group of people came in to take a look. And this is my studio the other 363, 4 days a year. So a little chaotic, but very usable, very workable. All right, I'll get into now, like this presentation is basically what I give during my presentation demos, my workshops. So it kind of gives you an idea of what really that I try to concentrate on in expressing this. Love travel. This is a scene from Paris. And I work primarily from photographs, and I do paint on location occasionally, but I love early evening, night scenes. So those scenes are very fleeting. And so it's difficult to actually paint on location with those. So I'm taking pictures and painting from them. So this is a bridge in Paris, and this is a painting. Working with big brushes, palette knife. This is a pastel on the bridge. Working in big shapes and slowly refining the shapes that make the painting a little more distinct in certain areas. I have a very loose technique. And this is an oil. I love the urban scenes. I love the energy of the city. And I love the abstract patterns that can be created with brush and palette knives. And a lot of this, what you would see to be detail, is just detail that is implied and lets the viewer make up that definition. It's another scene with the bridges in Paris, getting more expressive. It has a lot of thick and thin paint. Most of the people that join my workshops are interested in loosening up their painting technique. So that's my goal, is to slowly nudge them out of their comfort zone. In traveling around and taking pictures, all I'm really looking for is some structure, a little bit of contrast, and kind of a sort of a hint of color. I'm not looking for the perfect paint or for the perfect picture. I am just looking for something to work from. So this is an example of a pretty typical scene in Paris. And that's the painting. So really pushing color and pushing more of the abstract shapes. Another night scene. Big shapes. Outdoor cafe scene, fairly typical. And I paint a variety of subjects. A lot of scenes in Denver, a lot of interiors. I do like landscapes and still lifes, but I'm only showing you a short segment. So in my presentations, I also do step-by-steps. And this shows you a painting in progression. Working on UArt paper with pastels, I've brought in charcoal just to loosely map out the actual shapes in the painting. I'm not looking for a perfect drawing, I'm not looking for shading. This is just mapping out the where the shapes are going. And then I go in with my big broad strokes and pastels, dark blue gray, burnt sienna, dark green, sort of a really deep green brown. Working on the foreground. Bringing in some of the warmer tones. And then coming in with the lights. So I go back in that. This is a 9x12. Now these slides or these images were taken obviously in stages while I was working on the painting, and then download or uploaded, and then I will work with them to make sure that the contrast, the color is accurate between each of the slides, because you want to make it as accurate as possible. It's an oil painting. working with palette knife and brush, but just really implying detail where it's only just flicks and edges of color. Night scene, a lot of abstract shapes, and then coming in with some real definition, some line work. It's pastel on the bridge, early evening, a lot of contrasts in color and contrast in temperature. During my workshops, I talk about the source material, the reference I'm using, and how I may adjust the composition. This was a demo that I did for, I think I had about 75 people. So it was a 90-minute presentation on pastels. And I showed them, this was the reference photo I used and how I adjusted. For me, I mean, it's a fairly typical scene, and this one's in Paris, but I wanted to bring this car over and kind of tie it in a little bit more with the people on the side here. So this is what I came up with. Lots of abstract shapes, big, bold colors and shapes and strokes of color. And then I thought that made more of an interesting painting. This one's just a little bit dull, so really pushing the color as well. Interior in Denver. This is at a hotel. Downtown, this is an oil painting. It's about 18 by 24. Another example, we were out walking the dog. This is an example of what I found interesting, but I wanted to push it into a little more, more uniqueness, more dynamic painting. Really pushing the color of the snow and bringing out some more color in this, what's considered a fairly drab scene. What I found that with students and people who are watching presentations, they like to see where you start. They want to see your source material. They want to see how it becomes a painting. Painting exactly what's in the photograph doesn't move it very far. You're just duplicating a photo. So I'm showing the sort of the creative side and that artistic license, I guess. This is a large painting. This is 36 by 48. And it's a house that we pass on the way to my son's school every morning. And it's kind of a ramshackly type of house, but I just thought had some great bones, good shapes, lots of great color hitting off the sides there in this sort of brownish green. And then the chain link fence. It's in a little bit, it's a little run down, but not bad. I like it. It's got a lot of character. Another example of taking a reference photo and really pulling from that and making it more interesting. Really pushing the color, warm and cool, contrasts, big, broad shapes of color. Interior scene. So this is the kind of presentation that I give, giving it a rounded view of my work, and also including a step-by-step, as well as where you start from in a photograph and how the painting ends up. Love the urban scenes, the light, just such incredible times where the colors become almost jewel-like, early evening. Also in Denver. Last light. You can see where the architecture starts to come through. I do love structure, and that does play a part in all my paintings, basically. This is our backyard. Some interesting late in the day light. But I also do get outside. It's very important. Plein air painting. This was, I think, sometime in the 20s. I don't recommend this type of setup, but it's always nice to see people to get outside and paint. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to talk a little bit about the marketing. When you're doing these type of presentations, how do you reach people? For me, it has been through Facebook, Instagram, my own mailing list. People have contacted me, like yourselves, and asked if I would do a presentation. I think this is very important to keep a sort of a long-running mailing list. So you can, in times like this where you want to reach out, this is a perfect vehicle. You can be working off of Zoom. So Facebook is good because it's primarily a more mature audience as opposed to Instagram. Instagram has a very broad audience, but I don't know if it actually reaches as many, say, art students or people that would be interested in seeing a presentation, where I think Facebook is probably a little bit better. But you always want to depend also as well on your own mailing list in gathering people for that. Just a note about social media. You have to be careful. Social media can be a massive time waster. So I'm very, very targeted by what I do. I don't have any personal information on my Facebook page or my Instagram account. It is all about art, and that's it. Because my primary focus is painting. And the last thing I want to do is spend 2, 3, 4 hours messing around with social media. So it's not, it doesn't have any advantage for me to be, going back and forth on Facebook or Instagram. So, but they are good vehicles, and it's free. When I first started off in fine art, you didn't have anything that was free in how to reach people. You had to pay for advertisements. You had to, do flyers. You do brochures. That's all changed. Right now, we have pretty good vehicles to reach people. So I would highly suggest getting an Instagram account and a Facebook account, but be very careful how you use it and what you use it for, because it really is, if your goal is to paint, you don't want to be stuck on Facebook for 3 or 4 hours a day. And, like a lot of kids, I guess. That's the sad part about it. But I use it for what I find works for me. So I'm going to move a little bit ahead now to a little more of the technical side of the presentations. So I'm going to share screen. Okay. All right. So when it comes to promoting my work, I have in the past, I've actually done collaborated with some media companies who have done videos of my paintings and demos. And this would be F&W Publication, which is now Peak Media. But you can see all of this on the Artist Network, which is a website controlled by Peak Media. And they also produce the Pastel Journal, the Artist Magazine, Watercolor, think, and they have a couple other ones too. But I was very fortunate to get involved with them in doing these promotional videos. And this is another way of reaching people when it came to promoting my work and doing my seminars, is that they had seen my videos. The reason I bring this up is because you can do your own videos. If you'd like to do a video of a demo and then you can put that on Instagram or Facebook, that's a great way to attract a public. And I think that it's a really nice way to start the communication going with people. They say, I saw your video. I'd love to get to know your work a little better. Do you have any presentations? That's, I think, a pretty key part of this. The second set of videos that I did was a 4-part video series. It was called Decoding Degas. And this was a series where I took one of Degas' Bather series and I recreated the pastel. And it was in the vein of copying the masters and to show what you'd learn from working on these paintings. And starting with charcoal drawings, working my way into pastels. And this was a very popular series, and I got a lot of response from this. And you can see some of the previews for free on YouTube. This was an example in my studio when they were actually shooting these videos. Highly technical. I don't really know a lot of the stuff that they were doing here, but it was fortunate that I had enough space to be able to shoot them there. But these were great promotional vehicles for me. And that's my pastel version of Degas as in the finish range. Setup. This is an example of what my easel looks like for a demo. This is for pastels. I have a sort of a large sheet next to it, and this is where I experiment as I'm working on my demo. And I'm working on color combinations on this blank sheet. And then when I have a color that I really think will work, then I bring over here and make the marks. And so I have a really bold and direct strokes for my actual, for the actual demo. This gives you an idea of the setup. What I'm working here on a tripod is I have an iPad that is hooked into my computer. And I am using this as basically a video camera. iPads are fantastic cameras. And this isn't a very new one. I think it's probably a few years old. But if you're thinking about getting a webcam, you don't really need one if you have an iPad. These are great little video cameras. And I'm also using my iPhone over my palette, which is over here. And so I'll even show you a short clip in a second of how my demo goes and how that all comes together. But I can't stress how great these iPads are in actually shooting videos. And this shows the camera hooked in to my desktop. And you can see it's pulled up on the desktop here, which is like what I'm doing right now. I would share that, and that's how people would see the demo. And the actual software that I'm using is called OBS. And it is, which stands for Open Broadcaster Software. It is free, that you can download onto your PC or Mac. But you also have to have an accompanying software on your iPad or your phone, and it's called OBS Camera. You download that, and I think that's $14.99. And that's how you connect with your PC or Mac. You bring up the free software on your screen, and then those two, the camera and your iPad, or if you have a webcam that you want to connect it to, all comes through into your, and I hardwire it into your PC, and then you bring it up on your OBS software. And I won't get really technical about this. There are many videos in YouTube that'll tell you a lot more about OBS, because that's another hour in describing and all the bells and whistles that go in with that. But it's very, very good software to work with. It does take a little time to learn the bells and whistles of it, but I highly recommend it. It's really a terrific way to go in combining 2 cameras, maybe even 3 cameras in developing a presentation. There are many people use OBS. But it is a little bit technical. So I would highly recommend, watching some YouTube videos that are instructional. And I think they just do a great job. And that gives you another view of what it looks like. And you can see I have this other long cord is another cable that's going to my my iPhone that's over my palette. So really, my total costs in setting up for presentation was a couple very inexpensive stands that would hold the light, a microphone that was like $19 on Amazon, which I'm using right now, and 2 cables, USB cables. Get a long one that goes to where you would like to show your palette, and then a shorter one that can hook up into your iPad. So the long one goes to your iPhone, the shorter one goes to your iPad. Have a tripod that can hold your iPad, and there's a brace that you can also get for your iPad. There are a million ways, it seems, to actually conduct presentations these days. This is just one way, and what has worked really well for me. Okay. Gives you another look at that. Okay. So what I just described, this is the software that comes up on my screen. I have my demo right here that is being photographed or videoed by my iPad. And this is my pastel tray that is being videoed by my iPhone. And I'm able to combine the 2 on this software. And this makes for a really great demo, because it's like you couldn't get this close to a on-site in-person demo. People will be sitting in chairs. This is like looking right over the shoulder of the person doing the demo. So I'll play a little of this and you can see. I'm going to bring a little bit of light on those Bougainvillea. I can't even say the name.
Bougainvillea, you got it. You did good.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sort of fast forward a little bit here. Okay. So we have this bright spots in here. And down here as well. All right. Okay, so now I'm working on some of the bright spots here. So you're getting the feel of that Mediterranean light?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it's a beautiful glow.
It does have a nice feel to it. I love these scenes. So over here, we have just some bit of architecture, part of a
And you have this thing going through here, like that. And that's picking up some of the light below.
Okay. So that gives you a feel of, like, during my workshops, what the demos look like. These demos run about, a little over an hour. And I'm not I don't have for me, I get very bored with demos that I watch. So I try and not make these too long, because I think the natural attention span is it's difficult to hold for that long a time. So I think an hour, hour and a half is plenty of time for a demo. So make the demo small. This is a 9x12 in pastel. One of the, a nice feature on Zoom is an annotate tool. So what you're able to do is, when I do my workshops, I can have the participants, send me their images. They can send me the photographs that they're working on. And I can take this tool in Zoom, which is very simple to use, and actually point out specific parts of the photograph that I want them to concentrate on. So this is a good example of that. Notice these natural, see, maybe you can go up, but we'll just take a section of this. I want to have you think this mostly in big shapes. And you got these little eye hole cutouts in here. It's like a little one there. Natural shapes in here I don't want you to miss. And it's really, you know, if you look at your black, white, and gray, see how you just need more darks where the tree's at? Same with over here. This area. There's definitely more darks, and it kind of goes up here. So if you have a chance to kind of gang them together a little bit.
Drawing these outlines in as you.
Yeah, you just need a little more darks. I want you to make sure that you understand all the depth in there, and see there's all these darks because they're all in shadow. Like that. So I don't want you to miss those. And this is a good way to keep your values in check, because it'll keep you from them jumping to the higher midtones right away. Those are sections that you really want to leave in that dark to medium dark range. And that's that area that I think you skipped over in the previous painting.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then hopefully we'll get back to the in-person workshops. I always try and bring horses and cows into those as much as possible. This is actually Thomas Eakins, in this turn of the century. They were actually doing, this is a sculpture class, and they were doing a sculpture of a I think it's a cow back there. So they actually brought it into the studio. We're not doing that, but anyways, I thought this was a classic picture of working on site. Really interesting pictures. And working outside, plein air painting, up near Boulder, Colorado. Gives you an idea. Just love to get outside when you can. So that basically covers the presentation of the presentations and demos and workshops. So if you'd like to open it up to some questions, very happy to answer any of your questions. I will.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks, Desmond. Bo, is there any questions in the chat that you'd like to highlight and maybe ask folks to unmute themselves and ask.
Yeah, maybe, how about we I unmute folks in general, because we're a small group and people can ask their own questions. How's that sound?
That sounds great. I think we'll go in order maybe that's in the chat. You had a question about interactions between you and Facebook.
Mhm.
Do you want to
Yeah.
ask that? Yeah.
Yeah, so all right, I'll since I'm the oldest one here, I'll take the age before beauty and age before talent. So when you're on Facebook, what was a typical interaction? You log on, what do you do, and then you log off or you leave it? What's that look like for you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I use both Facebook and Instagram for very specific reasons. For me, it really comes down to just a few. Displaying a painting, posting an image, and then you get people who see the image. This is all, self-promotion. And it's nice to get the image out there. You never know where it's going to hit. There are many groups on Facebook that you can join, like Pastel Society of America, Oil Painters of America. There's one called Passionate About Pastels. I mean, some of these groups have thousands and thousands of members. So when you post a picture on there, you have a very broad audience that's going to see that image. This is all self-promotion. And being a professional artist, I have to be honest with you, 50% of this career is marketing. And promoting your work is a big part of marketing. Now, does that guarantee you're going to sell a painting on Facebook? Not at all. This is all basically promoting. I mean, you could sell paintings on Facebook. That may happen. But what you're trying to do is get your name out there as much as possible. So with Facebook, I'll put pictures of paintings on. I will advertise workshops. And by the way, I have a workshop coming up on the 10th and the 11th of April. And it's going to be hosted by Destination Art. If you're any of you are interested in reading more about that workshop, you can go to my website. And on the front page, the homepage of the website has more information on that workshop.
So let me do one more follow-up. Let's say you've done something or you have a workshop coming up and you post on your Facebook page. Will you share that to groups that you belong to?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so then you'll do series of sharing
Right.
and you'll be posting, in a sense, to other groups.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll post to like 5 or 6, sometimes more. And over the course of a week, maybe 3 or 4 days during that week to different groups. So you have to realize this what makes this so unique. It's free. Now, of course, Facebook makes its money by, advertising. And as you know, there's nothing in life is free. So when they talk about, when it comes to social media, they said that there are only two industries that refer to their audience as users. And they said it's the illegal drug trade and social media. So they say if you're not paying for it, you are the product. So they're hoping to have you buy something. But I use it strictly for what I need, which is promotion. But I'm sure, they're figuring with the algorithms and everything they need, you're seeing tons of ads pop up in Facebook, and that's how they make their money, is through advertising. So
We also sell our data too. They're collecting data on all of us, so we're a product.
absolutely. That's why put as little of your data on social media as possible. All I'm doing is just art. It's just my art and my workshops. And if I have a show, I'll advertise the show. So it's very important to be very careful what you put on there.
Alice, you had a question?
Oh, gosh, no. Well, yeah, I did. But how about that little arrow when you were showing the person where to put their darks? Where did that come from?
Oh, that's just the cursor. Your mouse.
Yeah.
Can you can't see it. I'm moving it around on my picture right now, but it's just your mouse. That's how you use that annotate tool in Zoom. That's
Okay.
basically
And how,
your,
well, I have another question. So
Sure.
how do you see your students' work? If you're doing a workshop, how do you see what they're doing?
what they do is they actually take a quick shot with their cameras and then they just text it to me.
Oh, so you see it like little stages, like they're beginning and then
Right.
okay. Yeah.
And I
'cause
do, and,
yeah,
during the stages, a big part of my workshop is critiquing their work and
Right.
working with them. So I work individually with each participant and just kind of rotate through the whole group over the course of so many hours. And they're working on their paintings, and then I will rotate in and talk to them about their paintings, and they send me their images and stages. It's very straightforward, and it works seamlessly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I meet with some of my former, they were classroom students and now we just meet, but they send me their completed, mostly their finished work. And then we talk about that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but
and
it'd be fun to do really teaching. I mean, like, yeah, that'd be fun too.
Well, and you're trying to make that bridge that you don't have when that you do have when you're in person. And
Right.
this is the closest to it. And I found that this has worked so well because, I mean, I am critiquing their work in stages.
Right.
So it works really well when it comes to the workshops.
Yeah.
And these are two-day workshops, like Saturday and Sunday. I
Yeah.
always do them on the weekend.
Plenty of time. I have another unrelated question. So I take pictures now. Now I've gotten an iPhone. I'm so happy. And so I take pictures of the paintings I do and I post them on Instagram.
Sure.
And then that's the end. I don't know how to answer anybody. Like, should I then be doing something to the people that look at it? Lots of people say, I like your work, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
then
Well, unless they ask questions, there isn't really much more you can do.
you just do that. Is that good enough?
You're posting, people see it. I mean, it is a form of promotion. Realize there are millions of other people doing the exact same thing you are.
Yeah.
But the one thing, since when I worked in advertising, the one thing you have to realize when it comes to marketing is that all of those are vehicles that you use to drive people more to your site, your website. Always have your website on your Instagram and your Facebook page, so people can go say, oh, I can see more at this location. And you have to have a website. I mean,
I have
that's
a website, but how do you, well, there's
you
not.
just list it. You just list it on your site, www, your website.
Oh,
And you put that on there so people can click on it and see more of your work. For me, Facebook and Instagram is just an expanded business card.
right.
So they see it, and then if they want to see more, they get in touch with you, and
Yeah.
they will go to your website. They will email you. I've had people, get in touch with me strictly because they've seen something somewhere,
Yeah.
and that's old time advertising,
Thank you. Cool.
but it's free. Well,
Yeah. I want to mention that our president, Artist Equity President Robin Stone is on. Robin's going to say a few words, but you had a very good question, Robin.
Oh, well, I wanted to ask another question that Andrea had asked that was related to Alice's original question. And that was, she wanted to know where you find the annotate tool.
the annotate tool.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. If you, like right now, I am being pinned for this presentation. And you look at the where is it at here? So if I pull up, you have to screen share to actually do, first of all, you go to screen share.
Mhm.
So if I pull up my screen share, at the very top, that's at the little toolbar at the top, you will actually see something it says annotate, and it'll look like a pencil. You click on that.
Oh, I've seen that
Wait, I don't see that.
I click on that. I go draw. And
Wait, where is the pencil? I didn't see that.
no, you have to, what I'm saying, when you're actually screen sharing, when
Ah,
you're doing a presentation, that's the only time it will show up.
Oh, okay.
So right here, now I can do all this stuff on here.
Right.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
so much. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, that's cool.
But Robin, you had a question about return on investment, ROI, in
Yeah.
terms of bank, and follow up on that.
Okay. So my question was, where do you see the greatest return on investment in terms of your marketing overall, whether it's in workshops and social media, your books or whatever? Where do you see you selling the most actual paintings?
Well, when it comes to selling paintings, all of it plays a part. I at this point now, after this many years, I would say I sell probably 65 to 70% of my work direct to clients and collectors. So that's 30% that would be sold in galleries, which is fortunate for me because galleries are somewhat in decline right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you are, and I hate to always use this word, but it's in it because it can come across as sort of a cliche, but you are a brand.
Mhm.
This is my advertising side talking, is that you are promoting, you are driving people to your website, driving people to whatever, Instagram or Facebook, and you're starting that dialogue. So none of this is a wasted effort, unless of course you're on Facebook for hours and hours talking about what, dinner you had the other night and, what movie you're going to see. So I'm very, very concentrated of where I put my efforts and what time I spend on it, because the most amount of time I spend is painting. So this is all the stuff I do after I paint. And I've been fortunate to be able to sell paintings to people who have contacted me from several different ways. And you have to explore all of them. I would say there are a few social media that you really don't need. One of them would be Twitter. Pinterest is not, I don't see the interest in that one as much, because Twitter is just dialogue and we're basically in the visual business. So Instagram and Facebook are the two that I think are, if you want to devote any effort into any of this, those would be the two to do.
Great.
That's very
I
good.
think there's a question from Sarab.
He
Yes.
wanted you to talk a little more about the split screen. You have a phone camera for the pastel tray and an iPad for the actual drawing, right? That's what
Right.
I asked.
Right.
Okay.
And is the software that you use allowing that split screen?
Yeah, the split screen is basically created by the software, which is called OBS, which is Open Broadcaster Software. And you can find this at obsproject.com.
Okay.
So obsproject.com. And you can read more about it there and download the free software onto your PC or Mac. And then on your iPad and your phone, you actually have to download the app,
Camera.
is OBS Camera.
All right.
And there are tutorials on YouTube that will help you understand how they do the split screen, how you bring those cameras into your Mac or PC.
That's related to that. Where were you placing that iPad camera so that it focuses right on your drawing? Was it over your shoulder or?
Yes, it's over my shoulder. And a key part of this is that if you're left-handed, you want to make sure that the camera's coming over your right shoulder. So your hand's not covering your pastel or your painting. So right hand, the camera has to come over your left shoulder.
All right.
And it's really, that's unfortunately, many of the demos I've seen, people kind of get that a little wrong. The other thing too, and I sort of a strict rule with me, if I'm doing a demo, you shouldn't see anything but my hand.
Right.
I've seen these demos where you see the back of the artist's painting and the head, and you can't see the actual image. And I don't get that. So, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking on that one, but it's just, I mean, I worked with some more commercial projects when I was in advertising. So I did pick up the ideas of design in this process and to make sure that you're the most effective in how you are actually videoing this. So you want to make sure that that camera is right in there on top of your demo, and you see as much as the demo as you can. Occasionally the head will kind of pop in, but all you want to see is the artist's hand.
Right.
You don't want to see the whole studio. You don't want to see the back of the artist. You don't want to see out the windows. Make it very concentrated. It's very important.
Thank you. So Alice has a question about how your pastel and oil painting inform each other.
How they what? Sorry?
Inform each other.
Oh, of all the medias that's out there, I find that oils and pastels work so well together. When you work in pastels, you're working with pure color. So you're also working with a dry media that's very immediate. So you can get the marks down, move quickly through, and you can really become, it's very spontaneous kind of medium. When you're working with oils, after working with pastels or with experience working pastels, when you're mixing oils, you're looking for that nice color, brilliant color, pure color, because you're used to using it in your pastels. So it helps you avoid mud when it comes to your oil paintings. Now, when you're working in oils, you're working with big brushes, big broad strokes. You're really trying to loosen up your strokes, similar to what you would do with a pastel stick, the sides of the pastels. So see how one plays off the other nicely?
Yeah.
And the thing that you're trying to achieve in pastels is that loose stroke, that butter quality of like you get in oils. Lots of pigment, with your lighter colors, just, pressure with the pastels to make it nice and smooth. So one plays off the other. I think they really enhance each other.
Thank you. That was a great answer. So we have another question that's technical, if you don't mind reverting back to the technical.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned the color correct bulbs in your studio when you're having a show to highlight your work and make the work look as it should. Bo was wondering about what kind of bulbs you're using.
Well, over the palette or over the easel and stuff, I'm looking for full spectrum color correct bulbs. So natural light. But I'm not talking about like North Light, which I think it tends to lean a little more in the blue range.
Mm-hmm.
So natural light, where your painting will end up, you have no idea. So you want to make sure you have a nice amount of light on your painting. You don't want to hit it with super bright lights, because then when you're finished painting and you take it off the easel, then all the color seems to drain from it. Because you're backing away from color because it's so brightly lit. So I would say that you would want to use natural light, and I think it's called full spectrum bulbs, and you can have them on a just sort of a lamp attached to your easel, but make sure that you pull it far enough back, because most paintings that you're going to view are not going to be professionally lit.
Oh, it's true.
So make sure that the color that you're putting on your painting is accurate for you. And so it doesn't change dramatically when you pull it off the easel. I don't know if that makes enough sense. Does it?
Yeah, I think that was a clear answer. Thank you.
Okay.
And
most paintings in galleries are somewhat overlit.
Mm-hmm.
They got big spots on them.
Yeah.
So don't spotlight your easel with really bright light, because you're going to come away from it later going, wow, where's the color in this? It only showed up when I had really bright lights on it.
So since so much of artwork is now shown on the web or online, or when you're submitting for a show, you're sending it, via the web, do you color correct your work in Photoshop?
A little bit. It's hard to get an absolute accurate image because you're actually using a different media to represent your painting. I shoot all my paintings outdoor in strong sunlight from between 10 and 2 o'clock. Now, I'm fortunate living in Colorado, we have pretty bright sunlight practically all the time. So maybe a little more difficult on the East Coast when you have gray days. But what I do is I use a sunlit filter on my camera. And I use a polarizing lens when it comes to shooting paintings to get any kind of reflection or glare off. Pastels are easier to shoot than oils because you don't have any reflections on it. I don't shoot through glass or any of that kind of stuff. I just gather a bunch of my paintings as they're finished and signed, take them outside and shoot them. It's very important to shoot between 10 and 2. If you shoot earlier than 10, the color tends to go a little blue. If you shoot later than 2, it goes a little orange. Now you can correct some of that with some software. The one that I use is Photoscape, which is a free software you can download, which does much of what Photoshop is.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, interesting.
but Photoshop's you've got to rent.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I used to be able to buy it, and it's very expensive. But now they have their free software out there that you can buy that does all you really need. And Photoscape, I find, is one of the best, and that's Photoscape.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is great.
Wonderful. I want to be respectful of time. We're at the 5 o'clock hour, and I think we have one more question
Sure.
in the chat. Yeah, not sure about, can Photoscape be used on Apple products? That's just a quickie since you were touching on that. And then I'm going to transfer over to Andrea
Yeah,
for a question.
You can download Photoscape onto a Mac or a PC.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, I wanted to share something with you and then ask you a question. Because I teach my students by demoing and doing things on Zoom, I find that it's really good to practice first, because it seems so easy that you think you'll be all prepared. But what I found myself doing was running to the sink because I forgot the water or I didn't have something with me.
Mhm.
And especially for beginners.
Mhm.
The other thing I wanted to share was I just learned this by taking a workshop, that if you allow your students to share the screen, then you don't have to have them email you with the photos first. You can just, they can just open it on their desktop
Mhm.
and you can share it. And then the question, other question I wanted to ask is, I have a mini iPad that's a couple years old. Is the camera good enough? Do
Most
you think?
likely. Yeah.
And you can use these minis to take
Yeah,
the
I
photos.
use it
That's so
right
different.
behind me is a mini that I use to work off of when I'm actually doing the demo.
Oh, great.
So I have a
Okay.
mini and I have a.
I don't have to go buy all new supplies then.
No.
Yeah.
That's what the charm of all of this is, that you most likely all have the equipment you already need. The only thing you really need is to buy a few more USB cables. A longer USB cable to reach up for your iPhone if you're going to do something over a pallet, and then a shorter one for your iPad to go into your computer. So you most likely, and this is what I came down to when I was doing the whole research, because immediately most people, when they thought about doing webinars, they went out and bought a webcam, and probably the expensive ones. And you realize that you actually had all that, you have all that here already. If you work off an iPad, if you have an iPhone, you're basically set up to do a demo or presentation or a workshop.
Okay, thanks.
And all you need is just that OBS Studio or OBS software to actually, bring it all together.
Desmond, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. If you have any final word before I hand it over to our president, Robin Stone, to say a few words to the group that's here, please go ahead.
Well, thank you for all tuning in. I really appreciate the enthusiasm, and I'm always happy to, give as much information as I can on these different projects during some unusual times.
Yeah.
And so good luck with your endeavors when it comes to presenting, and maybe we'll see everyone on Zoom pretty soon. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Desmond. Take care.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye. Robin, would you like to share a few words?
Yes, thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for Betsy and Karen for doing all of that work. And I know that was a huge project. And our first speaker is fabulous. So that was just a wonderful and very generous presentation. And I think we all owe you some kudos for that. So I also wanted to let everybody know that April 11th, we're having a crit that Alice has put together, and she's done all the work for that. Thank you so much, Alice. And so if you haven't already signed up for the crit, please do that. My final announcement is that we're having our spring show in June. So we'll be letting you know, just look for the emails. We'll be letting you know when that's going to be. It's going to be virtual. We're moving into the post-COVID era of virtual shows. We have fabulous galleries that we can't wait to show you. So I hope that you're also all going to be part of that. So we'll keep you posted. Just check your email. We're working on the website. That's going to get updated too. So thank you all for attending. This was really fabulous.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.